I welcome back. You're watching MF Corner. Joining in now, we have Harshvardhan Roongta of Roongta Securities. And today we're going to be talking about what is STP and SWP, how they work, what is the difference, and how do you know when you need it. So, Harsh, thanks very much for joining in. The first question, of course, is, or rather, we can start by revisiting, exactly what STP and SWP stand for and how do they work.
Hi, Sumera. It's actually a very valid question. I'll tell you why. Because even today, despite having so many conversations around investing in mutual funds, we still have some investors come up to us and say, tell us a good SIP scheme. So SIP is not SIP, STP, or SWP. These are not products by themselves. These are only a methodology, a mechanism to invest in a particular scheme. So the first thing we need to be very clear about this, that these are not schemes by themselves. Now, specifically talking about systematic transfer plan, the STP. So what is an STP? Now, STP, as the word says, is systematic transfer plan. This is a mechanism wherein an investor, asks his fund house to transfer money from one scheme to another scheme of the same fund house. So that is very important. So now, for example, an investor has a lump sum and does not want to invest in the market right away. What he does is that he invests his money into scheme A, usually I'll say probably a debt fund, or it could be a liquid fund for that matter. Invest this lump sum into scheme A and then ask the fund house that every month or every 3 months or every year, whatever, at any interval, transfer a specific amount from this scheme A into a scheme B, which is of the same fund house. You cannot do this across different fund houses. So it's a systematic transfer plan, transferring money at a periodic interval from scheme A, usually a debt scheme, into a scheme B, which could be an equity scheme. Now, systematic withdrawal plan. Now, systematic withdrawal plan, the SWP, is actually the opposite of SIP. So, SIP being a systematic investment plan wherein an investor directs the fund house to debit his or her bank account and invest money into a particular scheme. Now, SWP is exactly the reverse of that and the opposite of that. In this case, an investor has some investments already with the fund house. There is a fund value created, of which the investor then goes and asks the fund house to say that, hey, every month, remove an X amount of money, redeem an X amount of money from this fund and give it back into a bank account. So STP is a systematic transfer plan, SWP being a systematic withdrawal plan.
All right. Is this STP, the systematic transfer plan, necessarily only transfers between equity and debt, or is it my choice as an investor?
Sumera, the systematic transfer plan says that you can transfer between two schemes of the same fund house. It does not say that you need to invest or transfer only between a debt and an equity. Usually, this is a practice. I mean, that you will invest your money into one category of schemes, which is probably a debt fund, and then you don't want to time the market, etc. So what you do is then you systematic transfer in an equity fund. But there is nothing that strictly, prohibits transfer between two debt funds or two equity funds. So there is no such restriction as far as the mechanism goes.
Okay.
Systematic withdrawal plan, on the other hand, is not a transfer mechanism between two schemes. As I said, it is a withdrawal option wherein there is a redemption from your scheme at a specific interval and the money comes back into your bank account.
Okay, so you could, even choose to combine them, right? STP and SWP, if one was so inclined.
Yes, most certainly. I mean, STP serves another purpose altogether, wherein, from an investor's perspective, look at the profile, for instance. So an investor says that, look, I have the lump sum with me, but I don't want to enter the market right now because they're overvalued or I don't know which direction it will go into. So says, look, I am an SIP investor essentially, but I have a lump sum with me. What do I do? So choice number one, keeps the money in the bank account and sets up an SIP. So every month there's an amount gets hit into your bank and the money gets invested into equity schemes. But he says, okay, going further, I don't want money lying in my bank account. Why don't you take it out of my bank account, put it in something which is non-equity? So this goes into a liquid fund, say, for example. And from there, automatically an STP transfers money from this liquid fund into an equity fund. So you're essentially coming into equities in a monthly basis. So you're not investing the lump sum in equity. So this is the entire purpose and for an investor type who does not want to invest the lump sum in equity. SWP, on the other hand, serves the purpose, say a retiree. I mean, they've accumulated corpus until retirement. So you have a nice fund value created. Now, you don't need the entire money at one go. At the same time, you don't want to possibly remove your investments and keep it in a fixed deposit or something like that. So what you tell your fund house is that, look, I need, say, 50, I have, say, for example, a 50 lakh fund value, for example. Let's take, for example, a person named Ram. Ram has about 50 lakhs accumulated in fund value. Now needs about 25,000 every month. So what he instructs the fund house is to say that, please every month redeem 25,000 rupees worth of units and credit it back into my account. So that will be an SWP. So so retiree needs the money every month. So this is what exactly the purpose of STP and SWP would be.
Okay. What about the tax implications for both?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting thing to know. So in an STP, in case of an STP, when you're switching out of a liquid fund going into an equity fund, so we take that as an example. In a liquid fund, you're essentially redeeming. So there is a redemption done in liquid fund and there's a purchase done in the equity scheme every month. So the redemption out of liquid fund is a debt. It's a debt scheme. So all the taxation relating to debt. So short-term capital gains, in case your holding period is less than 3 years and you've sold out, you redeemed out, and long-term capital gains in case there is a redemption after 3 years of holding. So there is an implication on the illiquid fund. Now on the equity side, you're investing in that month, you're investing in that particular date. So that becomes your date of purchase for future long-term capital gains or short-term capital gains calculation. So just to summarize again this part in case it has been confusing, you've redeemed out of liquid funds. So whatever short-term, long-term capital gains implication, you will have to pay that. And when you invest into equity, that particular date every month will be taken as your date of purchase for future long-term or short-term capital gains calculation. When it comes to SWP, you're simply redeeming. So there is a redemption of, in this example that I gave you, of 25,000 rupees. So there's a redemption of 25,000 rupees on those units, whatever has been your capital gains, either debt or equity scheme, whichever you invested into, there will be a capital gains implication, short-term or long-term. Now, just to very quickly tell you what is the short-term, long-term capital gain on debt and equity. So in case of debt, your holding period, if it's less than 3 years, then it is a short-term capital gains that you make. The tax that you pay on the profits is whatever your tax slab is, whatever is the marginal rate of tax. So if you're in a 10, 20 or 30% tax bracket, that's how you will pay the tax. In case it's long-term capital gains, which is more than 3 years of holding period, then the capital gains tax that you have to pay on the profits is 20%, but you get indexation benefits. In case you're redeeming or transferring out of an equity fund, then short-term capital gains is for a holding period less than 1 year, and the taxation will be 15% of the profits. And in case of long-term capital gains, holding period more than 1 year, the taxation is 10%. However, the first 1 lakh capital gains that you make is exempt from taxation. It's only for income earned more than 1 lakh of long-term capital gains in a year.
Okay. Harsh, just one final question. Is it, I mean, practically speaking, is it very cumbersome to set up an STP or an SWP? What is the procedure?
Well, Sumera, in fact, given everything going online at a click of a button, I mean, it is not at all complicated. It's just a very simple instruction that you're giving to your fund house saying that, please do this for me. And it's only a matter of choice. So if you're applying online, I mean, if you're investing online, or in fact, everything is in fact online now, it's only as a choice that you have to say that I just set up an STP. So you just click on that tab which says a STP from scheme A to scheme B, or if it's a withdrawal, you set it up. In case you're doing a physical manual form filling kind of a process, it's just a very single form. So there's nothing complicated. It's a very simple, very effective, convenient way for investors to deal with the way they like their investments to be dealt with. So I think it's a very, very progressive step. Just remember, it is not a product by itself. I have to emphasize this again. Despite so much of conversations that we've had around this, we still have people believe that this is a product by itself. So that's not the case.
Okay, Harshvardhan, your points taken on board. Thank you very much for joining in to explain this. With that, we'll wind up on MF Corner for today. Thanks very much, and I hope you found this useful. Do stay tuned in. The team of Closing Bell joins you next.